In April 1644, the most powerful emperor in the world woke up to the sound of his city burning. He walked to a window. Beijing was on fire. An army of rebels had broken through the gates overnight. His generals had either fled or surrendered. His dynasty, 276 years old, was collapsing in real time around him. He walked through the Forbidden City one last time, the greatest palace complex ever built. 980 buildings, 8,728 rooms, walls so thick and so tall that the city inside them had its own weather. He walked through all of it alone. Then he climbed Coal Hill, the small hill just north of the palace, and looked out over Beijing one last time, and he hanged himself from a tree. In his robe before he died, he had written a note. It said, "I die, unable to face my ancestors. Let the rebels dismember my body, but let them not harm a single one of my people." The last emperor of the Ming Dynasty, alone on a hill, watching his city burn. This is Forgotten Kingdoms. And this is the story of the Ming Dynasty, the empire that built the Great Wall, created the most sophisticated government in the medieval world, sent the largest fleet in human history across the oceans, and then collapsed in a single season. Before we get to the collapse, and the collapse is unlike anything else in this series, you need to understand what the Ming Dynasty actually built, because this was not a small or fragile empire. The Ming Dynasty ruled China from 1368 to 1644, 276 years. Over 100 million people at its peak, the largest population under any single government anywhere on Earth. And they didn't inherit a functioning empire. They built one from nothing. In 1368, China was a conquered nation. The Mongols, the same Mongol empire that destroyed Baghdad that we talked about last week, had ruled China for nearly 90 years under the Yuan dynasty. They had squeezed the Chinese peasantry dry. Floods and famines had killed millions. The country was exhausted, broken, and furious. And then, out of that wreckage came a man nobody expected. His name was Zheng He. He was not a general. He was not a nobleman. He was not the son of a powerful family. He was an orphan, born to a peasant family so poor that when his parents and siblings died of famine in a single week, he had no money to bury them. He wrapped their bodies in white cloth and carried them to a field himself. He begged for food as a child. He spent years as a wandering Buddhist monk. He nearly starved to death multiple times. And then he joined a rebel army within 10 years. Through a combination of military genius, ruthless political instinct, and the kind of hunger that only comes from genuinely having nothing to lose, Zhu Yuanzhang had defeated every rival warlord in China. In 1368, he declared himself the Hongwu Emperor, first ruler of the Ming Dynasty, the beggar monk who became the son of heaven. And what he built was extraordinary. The Hongwu Emperor had seen what poverty does to people. He had lived it, and he was determined that the empire he built would never let it happen again. He created the most detailed land registry in Chinese history, measuring and recording every piece of farmland in the country so taxes could be distributed fairly. He built granaries in every province, state-owned food reserves so that when famine came, the government could feed its people. He established a system of community schools so that even peasant children could receive an education. He created a civil service examination system so rigorous and so meritocratic that it would influence governance across Asia for centuries. Not your family, not your connections, not your money, your knowledge, your intelligence, your Ability. That is what got you into the Ming government. A peasant's son, if brilliant enough, could rise to become one of the most powerful officials in the empire in 1368. But it was his successors who took what he built and made it world famous. The third Ming emperor, the Yongle Emperor, moved the capital from Nanjing to Beijing.
And in Beijing, he built something that still takes your breath away today. The Forbidden City.
Construction began in 1406. 1 million workers, 100,000 skilled artisans, 14 years of building. The result was the largest palace complex in the world. 180 acres, 980 buildings, a city inside a city. The outer walls were 26 feet high and 26 feet thick at the base. The moat surrounding them was 170 feet wide. And inside, everything was designed around a single idea, that the emperor was the son of heaven, the bridge between the human world and the divine. And every person who entered the Forbidden City, every diplomat, every general, every minister, had to approach him on their knees. The architecture itself was a political statement. You are small. He is infinite. But the Yongle Emperor didn't just build palaces. He built ships. And this is the part of Ming history that should have changed the entire world.
It almost did. In 1405, the Yongle Emperor commissioned the largest fleet in human history.
Not 10 ships, not 50 ships, 317 ships, including 62 massive treasure ships, the largest wooden vessels ever constructed anywhere on Earth. The biggest treasure ships were 400 feet long, 160 feet wide. For comparison, Christopher Columbus's Santa Maria was 85 feet long. The Chinese treasure ships were nearly 5 times the size of Columbus's entire flagship. And commanding this armada was one of the most remarkable men in Chinese history, Zheng He, a Muslim eunuch from the southwest of China, a former slave of the imperial court, who had risen to become the greatest admiral China had ever produced. Between 1405 and 1433, Zheng He led 7 voyages across the Indian Ocean. He sailed to Vietnam, to Java, to Sri Lanka, to India, to the Persian Gulf, to the coast of Arabia, to East Africa. He arrived at every port with hundreds of ships and tens of thousands of sailors. Not to conquer, not to colonize, to trade, to establish diplomatic relationships, to demonstrate the power and sophistication of Ming China. He brought back giraffes to Beijing, presented as mythical creatures that proved the emperor's divine mandate. He brought back ambassadors from 40 foreign nations. He brought back tribute and trade goods from across the known world. In 1421, some historians argue, elements of Zheng He's fleet may have reached the coast of Australia, possibly the Americas, 71 years before Columbus, with ships 5 times the size. And then it stopped. In 1433, the Yongle Emperor's successors canceled the voyages, canceled them completely, banned ocean-going ships, made it illegal to build vessels with more than 2 masts, burned the records of Zheng He's expeditions. Why? The Confucian scholars who dominated the Ming court believed that everything China needed was already inside China, that foreign trade was undignified, that the ocean voyages were an expensive vanity project that drained resources better spent on the real threat being the Mongols, still pressing at the northern border. So instead of sailing the world, the Ming turned inward and built a wall. The Great Wall of China as you know it, the stone wall with watchtowers that stretches 13,000 miles across northern China, was almost entirely built by the Ming Dynasty. Earlier walls existed, but they were earthworks, packed dirt and wood.
The Ming built in stone and brick, reinforced with watchtowers every few hundred yards, connected by a beacon fire system that could carry a warning signal from one end of the wall to the other in a single day. Over 1,000 miles of new wall construction. Hundreds of thousands of workers, some of them dying and being buried inside the wall itself. It was the largest construction project in human history, and it worked for a while. But here is where the story starts to turn dark. Because the Ming Dynasty, for all its brilliance, carried a flaw from its very beginning. The Hongwu Emperor, the beggar monk who had clawed his way to the throne, never fully trusted anyone. He had seen too much betrayal, too much treachery. And so he created a system of imperial control so tight, so suffocating, that it eventually strangled the empire he had built. He abolished the position of prime minister, concentrating all executive power in the emperor himself. He created a secret police force, the Jingyue, that spied on officials, generals, and citizens alike, that could arrest, torture, and execute anyone on the emperor's order without trial. He purged his own advisors in waves. In the early years of his reign, he executed over 100,000 officials, real and imagined enemies, in a series of purges that left the government perpetually terrified. An official who disagreed with the emperor risked not just his job, he risked his entire family. 3 generations executed for disagreeing. The result was a government full of yes-men, full of officials who told the emperor what he wanted to hear, who hid bad news, who falsified reports. And slowly, over generations, this culture of fear rotted the Ming Dynasty from the inside. By the 1600s, the rot had spread everywhere. The emperors had become increasingly disconnected from reality. Some barely left the Forbidden City for years at a time. One emperor was so obsessed with carpentry that he spent his reign building furniture while his eunuch advisors ran the empire. The eunuchs, servants who had access to the inner palace, had accumulated extraordinary power, selling official positions, taking bribes, running criminal networks inside the government. The military had hollowed out. Officers were taking the pay of soldiers who didn't exist. Equipment was not being maintained. The great army that had driven out the Mongols was a ghost of itself. And then, in the 1630s, everything came apart at once. 3 catastrophes hit the Ming Dynasty simultaneously. Climate, disease, rebellion. The 1630s were part of what historians call the Little Ice Age. Temperatures across the northern hemisphere dropped. Harvests failed. Famine spread across northern China. Then plague arrived. Historians believe a devastating epidemic, possibly bubonic plague, swept through the weakened, starving population of northern China. Some estimates suggest it killed 1/3 of the population in affected regions. Starving, dying, taxed by a government that needed money to fight the Manchu threat growing in the northeast. And a man named Li Zicheng decided he had had enough. Li Zicheng was a postal worker who had lost his job in government budget cuts. Then he watched his family starve. Then he joined a rebel army. Then he led it. By 1644, Li Zicheng commanded an army of hundreds of thousands of desperate, starving, furious people. He moved through northern China like a wave. City after city fell. Officials fled or surrendered. On April 24th, 1644, his army entered Beijing. The emperor, the last Ming emperor, Chongzhen, had spent his final hours ordering his wife and concubines to kill themselves so they would not be captured. He had personally killed his own daughter, with a sword to spare that fate. He had walked through the Forbidden City alone. He had climbed Coal Hill, and he had hanged himself from a tree. 276 years gone. But here is the cruelest twist of the whole story. Li Zicheng, the rebel who had just taken Beijing, lasted exactly 42 days as ruler of China, because waiting in the northeast was another army entirely. The Manchu, a people from beyond the Great Wall that the Ming had spent 200 years and millions of lives trying to keep out. A Ming general, furious at the rebels who had killed his emperor, opened the gates of the Great Wall to let the Manchu army in, to use them against Li Zicheng. Within months, the Manchu had defeated both the rebels and the remaining Ming forces, and established the Qing dynasty. The wall that was supposed to keep them out is the same wall their general opened the door through. Here's what I want you to carry with you. The Ming Dynasty gave the world the Forbidden City, the Great Wall, the largest fleet in human history, a meritocratic civil service that governed 100 million people, the most sophisticated urban civilization on Earth in the 15th century. And it fell not because of the Mongols, not because of the Manchu, not because of any external enemy. It fell because of famine, disease, and a government so paralyzed by fear and corruption that when the crises came, it could not respond. A postal worker who lost his job in budget cuts, watched his family starve, and brought down the greatest empire in the world. That is the Ming Dynasty, and it deserves to be remembered. Subscribe to Forgotten Kingdoms, because next week we go to an empire that didn't fall to rebellion or drought or plague. It fell because two brothers couldn't agree on who should rule it. And in that family argument, the greatest empire in the Americas was destroyed by 168 Spanish soldiers. The Inca Empire. I'll see you there.